Billy, what's Alex Caruso's status?
He's available.
Oh, okay. And Zach as well?
Both guys available.
Okay.
Billy, today we were talking to DeMar about what his perception of the issues have been. We brought up the point of you talking about kind of sustained it through adversity and that stuff. He thought it was more of a understanding and IQ issue with some guys. Do you see that in the fourth quarter of games, or when there's tough moments, that there's also a slippage in IQ and things do get chaotic with some of these guys?
Yeah, I mean, I do agree with more what he's saying. For example, like one of the things we talked about, you know, if you even go back to the Oklahoma City game, Patrick Williams dunks, we tie the game, come back from whatever it was, 18 down, right? 3 of the next 5 possessions resulted in charges, right? Like you have to understand what changes momentum in a game, and it's generally turnovers, it's generally putting teams to the free throw line, it's not getting back in transition, it's giving up offensive rebounds. So I think to his point, the understanding of whoever it is, there's going to be swings in the game. You know, what is causing those swings and how do you stop those swings, and having the awareness of it. But if you get caught into, oh, you know, here we go again, or gee, you know, that's not a solution, you know.
Right.
And so there is a combination of the understanding of, okay, there's a run going on right now. What kind of shot do we have to generate? You know, we don't need to turn it over. We got to block out. We don't want to foul. We want to get out in transition, maybe get something a little bit easier. So I think all those things, you know, are things that go into it too. Because when something happens that's not going well and it's negative, you still have to have a disposition to fight through it and not, you know, oh, we were just up 18, now it's a 6-point game. Well, we got to do something about it too, you know. And I do think we have to look at why are those things happening, and how do we shut off runs, and why are teams going on runs, and what is happening, and what are some of the things. And you know, quite honestly, in that when we got up against Brooklyn, there was I think a period of maybe 3 minutes we had 4 turnovers. That's what that kind of stuff, like we just got to be better at that. So if it's IQ or understanding the awareness of the moment, or understanding, I think we've tried to talk to those things to give them understanding. This is how momentum in the game changes.
So, Billy, another thing DeMar told us is, you know, one of your guys' goals for going to Nashville was kind of the team cohesion, so they could have the tough conversations with each other. And there's obviously the high-profile incident following the opener. But he said those conversations have been ongoing, and the communication's been good amongst the team. Have you seen that as well?
I've felt like that. I felt, you know, again, I can't tell you like all the you know, the private conversations on planes or buses, but you know, I do think the conversations are good. You know, I would agree with him on that. You know, I think whatever their private conversations are fine, but like when we're watching film, it's good. I mean, we're diving into and addressing, you know, the things that we have to address and what we got to do better. And I think that, you know, those guys are comfortable, I think, talking to each other on a level of what they need from each other to perform and do their job.
Today, I mean, obviously Arturas, you know, he's pretty regimented about when he's going to talk to us, and it's not very often. For him to come out today and say that he's disappointed in this start and not running from it, takes responsibility for it. Do you kind of share that same thing? I mean, what's your responsibility in all of this, that you feel like, hey, you know, I'm responsible for this too?
Oh, 100%. You know, I think that, you know, I'm somebody that I just believe this first and foremost. I'm not going to go to ownership, front office, players. What do I need to do better? What does our staff need to do better? You know, and I think, you know, you had mentioned maybe some of the things about, like, is your message not getting through? Are you getting off to these slow starts? Those are things, you know, I'm trying to work at. So certainly there's certain things from my vantage point, as I look at it from a coaching wise, that we've got to be better in terms of trying to help the group. So yeah, I take ownership in this too, in terms of what I've got to do. I'm not obviously making the decisions that maybe Arturas is making or Jerry and Michael are making, and I'm not making the decisions on the court that the players are making, but I don't have control. Like, what do I have control of?
Right.
What's my responsibility? Where can I get better? Where can I improve? And how can I help? And I always believe in doing that. So I own, you know, I'm a big believer that you are what your record says you are. I'm not going to sit here and say, well, you know, a couple tough losses and, you know, we could be 500. No, this is what we are. And how do we get better and how to improve? Like, what are the issues we have to address? And as best as I can, try to hit those head on and talk about those things and show them in film and try to address it and maybe go about it, doing different things in different ways. I wish I had we got off to a good start against Brooklyn. That was great, but can we do it again and again and again? It
Right.
can't just be one time. And not to say we're gonna be up 20 points, in the first quarter of every game, but we got off to a better start. So I certainly take responsibility of where we're at too. I don't think there's any question I do, and I look at myself first in terms of what my responsibility or things that I can do, better to help our group. And that's my main focus. What can I do to help our group? How can I help our group? And certainly those conversations with the players, our staff, our tourists, everybody, we're all, I think, putting our heads together to try to figure out how can we all help one another. And I think the players have been great in terms of open communications about talking about things that we've got to do better. So yes, I do take responsibility of where we're at.
William, when you talk with our tourists, do you feel like you guys are on the same page in terms of like the source of that disappointment? Do you feel like you guys kind of understand where that's coming from?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Well, just what our tourists earlier today when he was talking about feeling disappointed with where the team's at, when you and him are talking, do you feel like you guys
Yeah,
are on
I
the
think
same
we're all
page?
disappointed. The players are disappointed. Our tourists and his groups are disappointed. Myself and our staff, we're disappointed. Ownership, everybody is. That's not, I don't think, anything that we don't share a commonality on. But once you get past the disappointment, the next thing is solutions. Like, how do we find solutions collectively? And that's what we've tried to do to try to help the group get better. And I do, think that guys have, after a loss, they've come back to work and they've tried to respond, and they've tried to get better, and they've tried to improve. To Casey's point, I think they have had discussions, they have talked about things. We're working at those things. So, but I do think that, how can we play more consistently is the biggest thing for me, because we've shown signs that we, had like a great first quarter against Brooklyn, and then that second quarter to close the half wasn't great, and then, for the most part, it was back and forth in the third, but we're playing catch up, but we got to find a way to be more consistent. And I think what DeMar talked about, understanding situation, fighting through fatigue, is things we have to overcome, and we've got to help them overcome.
I know you don't compare years,